is the Enneagram for peace. So what I'd like for you to do is go to participants on the and rename yourself with the city you're logging on from and the country, because this is going to be a global meeting and we want to see where you're logging on from. So when you do that, it's easier for people to connect with you. And you might have, Carmel is from Boston, USA. So now we know, next time we'll go to Boston, we might call Carmel and say hello. So this is a celebration. This is sort of a Thanksgiving for the Enneagram. And we know that it's being handed over from ancient traditions. And in each other's book, it's Gurdjieff is being quoted as saying, and then there is this symbol, there is this ring, and there are 9 points around the circumference. And there's 9 numbers and 9 at the top. And there is a triangle going from 9 to 3 to 6 to 9. And there's a 6-pointed figure within that. And by that, he introduced to the West the law of 1, the law of 3, and the law of 7. And we are here to celebrate the mystery and the practicality of the Enneagram. So together with me this morning, and it's a really early morning for my fellow board member, Milton Stewart. So happy to see you, Milton. How are you doing this morning?
I am doing well. It is early for me, but I'm doing well because it's World Enneagram Day, so I'm excited and I'm loving just seeing all the wonderful people jump in from around the world.
Good. Why is it that the IA Global is platforming the World Enneagram Day?
Yeah, one of the big reasons for IA Global to platform Enneagram, like World Enneagram Day, is because one, we're connected to the Enneagram and people internationally, which is such a beautiful thing. Another thing is that we want to honor the integrity and the importance of the Enneagram in the space to help transform people around the world. And I think it's also very important that we're doing this to IAA because we are a force for helping to bring like Enneagram professionals together, Enneagram enthusiasts together, Enneagram seekers together in a way that we can really cause some positive change within our world. And so I think that's one of the big reasons that we're hosting such a wonderful event for World Enneagram Day.
So I think it's appropriate, maybe especially this year, to focus on the theme Enneagram for Peace, don't you think?
Oh my goodness, yes. I think the beauty is that when we do come together and we show that we can come together, we are so powerful in a healthy and amazing way. We can do so many good things when we come together in a healthy way. And though there may be things and forces outside of us that may try to divide us, we can show through our own inner work and connectedness to each other that we can create peace, right? Not just inner peace, but we can create peace for those around us in our communities, in our areas. So, yes, I think the theme is super appropriate, especially for this year.
And we're so happy during the day, not only for the first 3 hours, this block, which we will have different perspectives being taken and discussed. We'll also have different perspective throughout the day. So I'm really looking forward to hearing people's sharing of their perspective on the Enneagram for Peace. There's a potential there, yes.
Mhm.
Uh, so who's the IA Global, Milton? What do they do?
So the IA Global is we're a nonprofit organization that does our best to help to spread the Enneagram in a way that has integrity, in a way that says to the world and other people looking that we have accreditation. We have ways to making sure that people understand that where can I go to learn the Enneagram from schools and teachers who have integrity, who have experience, and who know how to use it. So we're more like sometimes called a big umbrella, right? Or sometimes I consider a big park where you can say, hey, if you want to learn the Enneagram in a certain way from a certain place that has integrity, come to us and we can guide you there. We can help you to navigate to the schools, to the teachers who have been doing it, who have been learning it for quite a while, and they will teach it with love, integrity. That's very important. So that's who the IEA is, and we're striving for to constantly grow and to allow people to come together so that you have a professional Enneagram connectivity, right? And a community that's so important of people who want to like share, use, and be enthused by it and become professionals around the Enneagram.
So this organization is not for any special lineage?
Oh no, no, no. It's not for any special lineage. Every process, every organization has to start somewhere, but we're not for specific lineage. We are for understanding and bringing together the different teachers and the different lineages that have come together. You said before when we started, this is an ancient tool. Like no one trademarks necessarily this tool by itself. Like we all have access to it, and a lot of the parts come from different pieces of the world. And so I think it's just a beautiful part that we can be able to like, okay, there's certain lineages that have started, but guess what? We can all learn from each other. And our goal, if we're all working towards it, not just how we say it, but our goal is to say, okay, what's the inner work that I can do to be a better part of creating a positive, better future and a future that has some form of peace with it as well.
Thank you. And I've heard you mention ethics. What is the IA Global doing for ethics, and why is ethics so important?
Yeah, ethics is so important when it comes to IA Global. And one thing I think that's so important, I love about our board is that we're constantly trying to grow and understand and how to be better, even with ethics around the use of the Enneagram in the space, right? It's important for us to have healthy parameters to protect not only students who come to IEA schools or IEA professionals, but it's also important that the schools and the teachers also are in line with integral ways of teaching and sharing, because there's many ways to do it. And we want to make sure that the way that we do it has ethics. There's a process to it, right? There's a way that we uphold ourselves, right? Because this tool is powerful. It is very powerful, as people on here know, right? It's exciting, it's fun, especially when you first learn. It's sometimes a little scary because you're like, oh my goodness, all my shadow stuff. But it is actually very important that when we accredit a school, when we accredit a teacher, like that they actually operate with a certain amount of ethics in the way that they treat people, in the way that they care about their community, in the way they carry themselves in our space together. Because you need ground rules, you need parameters to help us to make sure that we're holding ourselves as Enneagram professionals, as Enneagram enthusiasts, accountable to each other. It's very important.
Absolutely. I heard you mention accreditation. Is any other body doing Enneagram accreditation of professionals and schools?
There's there's not any other accrediting body for the Enneagram that I know of. Yes, that we have amazing schools that do certifications, which are amazing, and I love that, right? But accreditations, I don't know of any others like body that's doing accreditation. So, what you're saying, Tom, is there anyone else checking for, is that school have like um healthy content that they're teaching, right? They're not just teaching something like randomly just wanted to teach, right? They're actually teaching some of the foundational work, and they also have students who are being taught in a really good way that has integrity and has ethics, and it takes care of the students, and they have a growth path and all these things. So it's really, we're the only body internationally that's accrediting schools and looking at, okay, how do our schools, our teachers, our professionals become better, right? How do we make sure that they're staying sharp? And how do we make sure that they're continuously learning as well? So it's a very important process. Like we're all teachers to a certain degree, but we're all also students, no matter what age we get to. it's important for all of us to understand that's still the journey for all of us.
I know, Milton, that you're the vice president. We know that Deborah would have liked to be with us, the president of the IA Global, but actually now, in this second, she's midway between Istanbul and London. So she sent a message to us. Would you play that for us, please? It's
Sure will. Right. All right, turn your computers up. May have to turn your sound up, everybody. Here we go.
Hi, everyone. I am Deborah Threadgill Egerton, President of the International Enneagram Association, and I'm popping on today to welcome you to World Enneagram Day. I'm really excited about what we have planned for you this year. We're starting at 8 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time and running 9 solid hours of consecutive content. So I hope that you'll take the time and just join us today. There's so much going on. If you don't have time to just sit with us for 9 hours, that's perfectly understandable, but jump on whenever you can. And if that's not possible, I just want to encourage you to take the time today to introduce someone to the Enneagram, to share some of your learning, to share what the Enneagram has done for you in your life. Those of us who study the Enneagram understand how powerful it is in healing our relationships, in making our workplaces better, in just being able to do our own inner work. So basically, the Enneagram helps you to become a better you. And that is the most important thing you can do for any relationship. So I hope that you enjoy this day. I'll be popping in and out myself, looking to see who's on and what we're doing. And just remember that World Enneagram Day is symbolic of what we can do with the world that we live in terms of bringing each other together. This is happening all around the globe today. So be a part of this beautiful, beautiful movement to spread the Enneagram to all parts of the world, so that all of us can come together and truly value our humanity. I'm really, really excited about today, and hopefully you'll bring a friend. You don't have to show up alone. The day is free. Just participate with us and enjoy the day. Thanks, and see you soon. Remember, we have a conference coming up in July, so I hope I get to meet you there. Take care.
Thank you, Milton. So you might want to elaborate just a few seconds about the last statement from Deborah about the conference.
Yeah, so we actually have, this is so amazing. So we have the IEA Global Conference coming up, and it's called IEA Experience, IEA Enneagram Experience 2025. And the Global In-Person Conference is in Minneapolis, Minnesota, July 24th through the 27th. It's going to be amazing because this conference is really about experiencing the Enneagram, not just like learning and looking like, oh, that was great to learn. Maybe I took home a lot of information in my head, right? But we're making sure like all the presenters and speakers are making sure we include the heart and the body inside of whatever that they're teaching. So it's going to be a very dynamic Enneagram conference and experience, and it's global, which I love. The other piece of it, which is amazing, is that's a virtual conference as well. And that's happening too. And so that one is June 11th through the 13th. And if you actually go to that one as well, you'll be able to see a lot of our global speakers who are sharing some, I mean, incredible like overlaps with the Enneagram, like things I've never thought of. And I'm like, oh, that's amazing. I would definitely be in the building for that one. So that's another part of it. So it's kind of, our conference is a two-part. There's a virtual component, and then there's an in-person component like about a month later. So it is going to be really exciting and experiential. And so I invite people, if you haven't signed up for one or both, to come to it because it's going to be something else. It's really going to be nice.
Thank you so much, Milton. We're looking forward to see you again. I really like hugging you, so I'm looking forward to be doing that.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, Milton, for rising early and greet us on this very important celebration of the Enneagram. day. Thank you. And we are 22 affiliates around the globe, and we will be visiting the easternmost right now, and I will be joined now by Gloria Hong, and you have some really exciting news for us about celebrations, don't you, Gloria?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Gloria Hong. I'm based in Hong Kong as part of China. And we start the IEA China 2008. And then we run conference and World Enneagram Day alternate year. And in the past, I think we just sent a report after we do all the sections. But this year, I think with the group's efforts to invite everybody really on to marathon one. So we are going to share some exciting news also. So currently we have 42 accredited teacher, and we start the celebration May 25th because in Chinese, 我爱我, meaning I love myself. So through Enneagram, we see that we can really empower self-love, growth, as well as when we practice together. And then it's like we create a powerful community. And I'm going to share a short video and then also do some introduction later on.
Thank you, Gloria. I'm looking forward to that.
Yes.
总会有人把你看得比自己更重要，会有人发现你身上所有的好，总会有人拥抱你微笑背后的伤，让你觉得世界不算糟。
Into our inner soul, so that is the meaning of the song. And this is the second location, 郑州。
生活，我爱九行525，我们在郑州，耶！
So you see that we actually have a committee of 20 people. So we send all the material to different locations, and then they can have a really standardized book per se. They do our own different topic. It is about Enneagram typing and how they really can excel beyond themselves in Beijing.
世界九行服务日北京站，
我们在一起，耶！
And this is Guangzhou. It is more about parenting. So you see a lot of people really dedicated to learn how to use Enneagram to be a better parent. Because youth tension in China is a little bit challenging because they only have one child in the policy in the past, and now they have 2 or 3. But I think many been used in different age lesson parenting. And this is Shenzhen. I'm there just returning in 2 hours. So this is where they learn conflict resolution and how to embody the practice. So we find our head, heart, and gut. And all the participants think they feel more relaxed after some practice that we share.
身心健康，创造幸福生活。深圳站九行让我们懂得爱。2025，我们在一起。
So we're saying that no matter where you are, when we're learning Enneagram, we are together. And then we are there to support each other's growth. And that is Kunming. Kunming is the light springtime, all the years, very lovely weather. That is where the West Lake is, the Hangzhou. Guangzhou's accredited teachers. And 5 of the teachers come together in Guangzhou to share the knowledge, and there is a lot of good feedbacks that we receive. Shaman is 4 hours from Shenzhen, and they run their own program, and actually it's after this May 25th event, some I think 6 of them drive 4 hours from Shaman to join Shenzhen today. And actually one participant from Guangzhou traveled 1,500 kilometers. That is more than a 13 hours train ride to come to Shenzhen to share the learning together. Qingdao actually is pretty northern part of China. They also have a lot of the teachers gathering together. There is Shenzhen again. And we have the fun day. You see the family members, so lovely. And the word is like a very brave me, living out of my own box. And they are organizing a party that create a lot of fun. So actually all the volunteer enroll the venue free of charge. And then some of the people are also running the online section, having a lot of various topics, spirituality, family, teamwork, conflict, personal growth, and even we are sending invitation for people to come to China, May 31st next year, Nanjing. This is the Nanjing's location. So far, I think we have 2 trainers from Australia, Malcolm and Gail, and also Russ promised to come, but keeping fingers crossed that his health can make the long trip. So Russ has been really supportive of the IA China, because he said he feel that it's Oriental blood in his own system. So he's actually joined all our conference in the past. So this is the 9th conference that we are going to run in 2026. So when you are talking about the Enneagram for peace, I think Chinese is really peace loving. Sometimes too peace loving, then people are really punching us in our face. We still having a smile, and then people feel that we are really not up to any fight. But I think it's like having that sense of collective wisdom and partnership really help us to feel the connection with even the between all our different locations, different teachers, and also brother and sister from the other parts of the world. So I think we are sending a message of love and peace from China.
So that's thank you so much, Gloria. So it's been fantastic to see all the celebrations around the country and all the efforts these 40 accredited teachers. That's amazing that you have, and the effort they do to really teach the Enneagram, and with such enthusiasm. So what you're telling me is that the message from China now is that you're a peace-loving people, and you want to send the energy of peace. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, of course. And that is a message in the system. saying that Nanjing is our ninth conference, May 30 and the 31st is actually spot on, right on. And that is the best season for Nanjing also. Lovely weather.
That sounds wonderful. And thank you so much for this. I agree with Patrick in the chat. Amazing contribution from China. And I'm so happy that you're part of the IEA Global family. And you're really thriving and are really powerful in your outreach to, as Milton said, keep the integrity of the Enneagram by having the accredited teachers, but also the enthusiasm to spread the news about the Enneagram. And I agree with Russ. He's done his Oriental studies, so that's why he has this inclination going east. There's a lot to be learned from the Eastern cultures. So thank you so much, Gloria. And
thank you. Have a nice section for the 9-day marathon. Keep it up. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. It's amazing to see all these different aspects, these different cultural expressions of the Enneagram. I wish I knew Chinese to read some of the colorful posters they had, and such a powerful energy and sweet energy by Gloria. I'm so happy you could join. So we're sliding westwards, and the next country, the next affiliate that we will be presenting is Egypt. And as we speak, they are having a conversation, a talk at the American University in Cairo. So, Rania, how are you? Salam alaikum. You're still muted, Rania.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I like your hairstyle this morning.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So you found a room in the premises of the university?
Yes, I actually took myself out, excused myself out of the main session to be here with you in this session. And I managed to find the place. Yes, hope there is not a lot of noise around me and you can hear me well.
I can hear you well. So don't move further away from the camera. Slightly. Okay. And what is the event that you've sneaked out of? Could you explain to us?
Yes, sure. Okay, so we decided here in the Egypt affiliate to have like a festival, a day where we all come together, different schools of the Enneagram, different people who are knowing or wanting to know about the Enneagram. So we hosted 3 events for anybody who's interested, not only Enneagram lovers and enthusiasts, but maybe other people who would also like to know about this. And like you said, Tom, we had this collaboration early on this year with the American University in Cairo to sort of host us on the premises of the university and host our events. And this already gave us wider audience to talk to, since we were able to promote our messages on their social media, to their students, to their staff. So as I am speaking, we have 2 things running in parallel. Sort of free profiling sessions for those who signed up to kind of to try to know which type they actually relate to, as a way of increasing the reach out to the community, to people who might not know about the Enneagram. And for other people who actually are already within the Enneagram community, there was this coming together, all the biggest 5 schools in Egypt, they were together today on a panel discussing the theme of the day, which is Enneagram of Peace. Enneagram for Peace. It was a lovely, lovely session where everybody shared genuinely from their hearts. And it was beautiful to see everybody sort of, together. This is like to me, this speaks to peace very much. It's this coming together, building together, staying with each other. And we finished this part of the day by actually going out to the garden. We have here a beautiful garden where we took some balloons and we wrote messages, sort of reflection messages that each one took out of this discussion or panel, and we released them into the sky, sort of sending them out into the universe with our, yes, it was a beautiful, beautiful idea and by one of our team members, and it was beautifully also done. People were really very enthusiastic about it. I wish I could show you videos or pictures of it, but we will be posting about that on our page, and then you can maybe see what happened there.
Thank you. I'm getting excited and touched by what you're saying, Rania. And I've heard about you explained 5 schools under the umbrella of IEA Global and IEA Egypt. Is it no conflicts, no competition, no bashing each other's head or killing?
No, they were beautifully sitting next to each other. Competition was out of the way, and it was beautiful really to see them. And it's like, this is the first time that something like this happened, that they are all gathered in one place, and we're all, it's amazing when we really take a moment to see how much we all talk the same language, yet maybe in different terminology, but it's the same. In its core, it's the same. And after we finished the panel today, each and every one of them were so happy and expressed this vocally, that they were happy to be part of this panel happening, part of this community gathering, and that please do more of this. And whenever you want us there, just come straight to us and we will be there. So it was a beautiful community engagement happening there.
I'm happy to hear that. So it's really working, this Enneagram energy, when it comes to peace, and when there's schools competing, they're still not really competing. They're in it to enhance the Enneagram, sort of.
It is working. I mean, today was a proof that it works. Okay, I mean, competition is always part of the game. It's like, it's part of our everyday life. We cannot really take it out and say no competition whatsoever. And it's not all even, because through competition, everyone strives to do his best and to sort of be able to contribute in a meaningful way, in a way that serves. It's like, you know, it's like a motivating factor inside to sort of get us to get our best out. So while it's there and it has a place and very much acknowledged, it's this balancing point where it doesn't get us into conflicts, or it doesn't get us into being at war with each other. We can complement, we can collaborate, and the collective will definitely benefit a lot from this.
Thank you. I really agree. And that's why I'm in this. I'm a type 9, and I really resonate with the outer and also the inner when it comes to peace. So this is really touching to me to see and hear that it's actually working. So we will be going through that again and again later this day. And I see now we're around 100 people connected, and people will log on and log off during the day, but we will celebrate this effect of being in the work with the Enneagram. It really is another umbrella that people are able to meet and being equal when they meet. I've been to the conference in Egypt, and I really love that. And I've been traveling around Egypt a few times, and I love it. And I've been inside the pyramid, and I've had great experiences in Egypt. What is it with the energy of Egypt? It's impossible, I know, but I'll point the questions anyhow. What is what's the meaning of the energy of Egypt and the Enneagram?
I think the energy of Egypt as a total, as a country, we have this welcoming energy, and it has been there throughout our history. I mean, goes very, very back into history. Even when it was through periods of colonization or through periods of occupation or anything, but still the Egyptian people in their nature, they have a very friendly and welcoming energy. So it's like, even if you come and at the beginning, there can be certain hostility or something, but deep down, we are people who very much like to welcome others, very much like to become part of a whole. So the idea of maybe individuality is not very high in the culture. It's a very we culture. You can see it, for example, in very simple ways on the street every day. It's like, yes, we are a third world country, and we might not have a lot of resources, or we have our struggles when it comes to the economy, but just to, driving on the highways, you would find, for example, if there is a person in need or an accident that happened, it's like people don't just drive by and go. It's like they stop and they get out and they try to help in whatever way they can, even if it's in the simplest manner possible. So this is something that is actually very deep into the culture. You don't leave people in need. You don't go, it's only me. No, it's this we mean is very, very strong there.
Fantastic to have a country thinking we. We have other countries around the world that's very far away from the energy, and I've experienced this myself, so I know. I'll give you another impossible question. It's, if you could think of the country as a whole as an Enneagram style, which number would it be and why?
Well, there was a big debate actually around this, Tom, because some people see Egypt as a 6, okay? And some people see it as a 9. And we're not far. We're still within the inner triangle, So it's like a 9-ish 6 or a 6-ish 9. But if I would go into the culture deeper and look, for example, into the proverbs that we use all the time, or the sayings, the quotes that are there deeply engraved in our culture, I would go more with a 6.
And why?
It's again this thing of holding together. It's like this comes very, very strong, that my survival is the survival of others, that it's only through sticking together and standing there for each other, and it becomes very evident in times of crisis. So during normal times, we can have our quarrels, no problem, and we can get intense at each other and get at each other's throats. But different occasions we went through in history showed us more than one time, repeatedly, that at times of crisis, all this is out of the way, and all what we know is that in unity, when we stand together, we survive, and divided, we don't. So this comes very strong across.
So this is more than 6-ish loyalty. It's even some interconnectedness, sort of.
It has the loyalty there. It has this helpfulness and support in the system there. It has this having each other's back, and while still at the same time staying, this aspect about staying vigilant, staying and looking out for what is it that might go wrong. We have a proverb in Arabic that it's like, when we for example laugh a lot, we say, oh my God, I hope nothing bad will happen. So it's like it's certain things like this that start giving you more insights about it, or like saving a penny, okay, in the black day will be of value in the sort of in the more how can I say that, in the more good days. So it's like a lot of sayings in our culture point towards this.
Good. I'm fascinated to hear about cultures. I would like to know more about you, Rania. Why did you say yes to be the president of the IA Egypt?
Oh, Tom, this is a big story. This is a big story. Well, actually, it did not come easy at all. I was prompted by some people around me. I mean, I have been in the IEA as a board member during the previous board. I have been active during the past two conferences as organizing committee. And I have a lot of passion for being within the society, serving back, giving back. I always say the Enneagram really, and I know it might sound like a cliche or a bit cheesy, but it really saved my life. It's like I wanted to give back, okay? And I can see that giving back individually is very limited, okay? When you belong to a society, and this is new to me to be even feeling these words as I'm saying them, because I'm social repressed. So it's like I've never had this throughout my life, to feel like I belong to a community where I say, yes, this is my community. The Enneagram gave me this, and the Enneagram community gave me this. And at what point in time, it was like, okay, what should I do? What decision should I make? I know I can do it, but it wasn't a question whether I can or not. It was a question of whether I want or not. And I've lived a big chunk of my life going with what I should do. Okay. And I sort of, during my healing journey, came to terms with that. It's not either or, it's not what I should or what I want. And I stayed for a very long time reflecting. It's like, what's my reconciliation point? What is it that I need to look at? Okay. Because if I'm totally into what I want, I am also ignoring the other parts in me, which there is something there behind the I should that is of service, that can be there and can be put for service of others. So finding this point in between, I came up with like, okay, it's what serves. So it doesn't have to be what I should do or what I want to do, but what serves. And it can be what serves me, and it can be what serves the other, or it can be also what serves the community at large. And when I found this point, I was able to take the decision and say yes. Although I know it's such a big responsibility, although I know it is a lot of work to do, and I have been there, like I said, for the previous boards, but none of this appeared again once I struck this point of reconciliation of what serves, because it not only serves the community, it serves me as well on my journey to be there in this place.
Thank you. Rania, I lead with the 9.9 energy and style. When you discovered your Enneagram style, what was your reaction when you really understood this is me? What was your reaction?
Well, the initial reaction is something, and when I really understood deeper was something different. But the first thing I remember was like, it was a bit of a shock to discover that actually I'm an anger type, because it's like, me angry? No, not at all. I'm a very calm person, okay? Which I am on the outside, but little did I know that it's, look on the inside, dear. It's not about the outside only. So there was a bit of shock there. But after the shock came the point of, yes, okay, that's it. So that's why I am actually feeling what I'm feeling. It sort of gave me meaning to the internal war that was happening. It made me understand why is it that on the outside things might seem like they are perfect, while on the inside they're not. And why was I so far from being content? And it gave me an explanation for the resentment that has been building up inside me for years. So from that standpoint, it was a relief to understand.
Yeah, the Enneagram's been called a map, and what you're describing is a map not only of the sunny sides, but also of the more darker side. And I agree. To me, it was a shock, and I also got ashamed, I think. Me? Angry? No, I'm not angry. Okay, I'm angry.
Yeah. Yes. It was a
So,
game changer, actually, to come to know me better, because it's like I was, by that time I was like, okay, it's clear to me that I need to understand me more so that I can live more peacefully. Because as things were going, it was very clear to me that I'm not having my inner peace. Although everything on the outside seemed perfect, but my inner peace was not there.
how did you work on your inner peace? So what made up, what was the pre-thoughts when you made up your mind, I'm really going to look into this. I need to look into this, and I need to start self-inquiry seriously.
I used to say something, Tom, that was strange to me. I did not understand it at that time. I used to say that I can see me in life in general as if I am in a movie. So I'm having a certain role in this movie, and you know what? I'm doing it brilliantly. It's like I'm perfecting it. But I know this is not it. This was the talk inside of me. Okay, it didn't leave me. So I knew I was restless. I knew there was something different than what is happening out there, and it was like coming to a turning point where like I cannot live like this anymore. It's like I really can't. I have to look into something different that can help me understand me more, so that I can again be in peace, at peace with myself.
When are you in peace with yourself? What do you sense then?
When I am at my peace in myself, I am actually accepting all of me. I am accepting whatever is happening, even if it's from a conceptual point, not really what I want or not really what I had hoped for. But there is a certain okayness there, that it's like, yes, it's there. I acknowledge it's there, and that maybe it's not exactly or sometimes even contrary to how I wanted things or how I see they should be. But again, it's a certain state from the inside where I'm okay. I'm just okay. It is what it is, and I'm okay with it.
Even though you have some conflict, can you still feel the inner peace while being in conflict?
Of course, it's like I cannot claim that this is happening all the time. It's like I'm a normal human being who gets triggered and who's like falls back into her own triggers and passions and everything. So I don't claim that this is happening all the time. But when I am in these moments of true presence, when I am in these moments of like I am in the flow of the moment, okay, the more I am able to be in the flow of the moment, this helps me a lot to be at peace with having the inner peace.
What do you tell yourself? Do you have a sentence? Do you have a phrase that you tell yourself to stay present?
Yes, I say to myself, it's okay, it shall pass.
I'll remember that. Thank you, Rana. So I have a final question for you. What's your points, your types, or whatever you call your Enneagram strategies, deepest secret, and even a secret that was new even to you at first?
It's funny you're asking this question now, because actually just before I just came out, we were having a game. We're doing a game. It's like we called it Guess Who? And we asked all of our participants to write something about their own type that is less common, that is less known by other people about the type. And then we read them out loud and asked people to guess which type this is. So what I wrote on the paper is, I care about people's well-being a lot. And it wasn't guessed that it comes from a 1. And this is something that I actually also learned about myself throughout my journey, because previously I used to tell myself a lot is that what I care about is just the right and the wrong. This is the narrative for sure. Okay. But below the narrative lies something different. And when I go deeper there, I started noticing that, okay, acceptance is a big deal for me. Being accepted and accepting others as well. And I took my time with this concept. But then I discovered that below the acceptance lies something even deeper, which is like, I really want the people. I really want to be with the people. Okay. And I used to tell myself all the time, you're not a people's person. You're not socially smart. And I discovered through the journey that this couldn't be further away from the truth than what I discovered. No, it's not true. This is what I keep telling myself, but it's not true.
What is it? Thank you. What is it that you really like to hear the most? An affirmation or a comment? Could I suggest?
Yes, please.
Rania, you're a good person.
Thank you. This hit the core. Thank you.
Why is it hitting the core of you? Something about helping people and being helpful and
yeah. You got me emotional now, Tom. You see?
Well, it's your emotions. I'm just offering the chance to get in contact with your own emotions. You're doing this to yourself.
Yeah.
And really hold your space for that.
Because actually, yes, one of the things why it hits core, because it's like you have a certain knowing. I have a certain knowing within me, deep down, very deep down. I know this, but there is a layer that sort of refuses to believe it, or goes against it, or demonizes it in certain ways, plays around it. And these voices can sometimes become so high that they actually veil the initial true voice from within.
Wow. Thank you for being transparent and sharing your emotions. This is probably what we need to do to create peace. This is the energy and the chance that the Enneagram gives us, being the map, showing us the potential, even in the darker side, maybe even especially in the darker sides, to acknowledge them, as you said, having a welcoming with that what is, and not run away from it, but hold it, like you've beautifully showed us.
Thank you so much for your question and for this inquiry. I love being with you here.
Thank you. And I'd like for you to tell your plans for your board and the next half year, what's happening around there.
Yeah, okay. Well, we, for one thing, we're having a conference next year. So 2026, February 2026, we have a conference in Egypt. It's the 4th in a row. We're very excited about it. And as you can imagine, very busy working to prepare for it. We already started that. And for the board, for the affiliate, I would say that we are doing currently a lot of experimentation work with other fields, not only specifically Enneagram related, but it's like other modalities that can help us have a more direct experience maybe of what we learned in the Enneagram. So we have been doing that already. We have done some things with dancing movement therapy. We have done things with osteopathic medicine, and we're moving towards the next year. We've just started actually collaborating with the Narrative School. The Narrative School is not that much known here in Egypt, so they graciously accepted our invitation for them. And we just started 2 days ago with a program with the Narrative School, and it will continue well into till the end of the year maybe. And we'll take it further into maybe having more narrative teachings in Arabic this time. This is the plan for the coming half year.
Beautiful. I'm really happy that you also exercise the big umbrella while having your next regional conference. And I'm really impressed. 4 regional conferences in a row. That's a record. So
yeah,
I'll be looking into hoping that I could attend again, but we'll see. So, Rania, thank you so much for showing up, and give my regards to my friends in your community, and all the best for your the rest of your event there, and keep up the good work. We're doing this together.
Yes, definitely we are. Yes, and I would love to see as many of you as possible next year, and we hope for the best.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Wow, that was really heart-melting to hear from another culture, the Egypt culture. And we really thank Rania for sharing and being a beautiful representative of her affiliates in Egypt. So we're at the hour, the first hour, and we're still 100 people, and we have 8 hours to go in this call. And we will be hearing very shortly from Finland. And after Ilona's presentation and talk with her, we'll have a panel discussion on different aspects of Enneagram for Peace. And after that, my board colleague Marga will be leading the next section with Norway, Netherlands, Spain, Portugal in their presentation. And later in the day, Talia, the other board member, will be leading the next 3.5 hours block till late European time. So we're at the hour, and we will welcome Ilona, the new president of IA Finland. And you are really flowery this afternoon, Ilona. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Yeah, in Finland, this weekend is like the biggest graduation weekend. So as Rania took some time off from an Enneagram event, I took some time off a graduation party. So I'm all dolled up, but flowers are good for peace also. So I feel I'm appropriately dressed for this.
Is that the behind you? Is that the wall of a sauna?
It could be, but it's not.
I built 2 saunas, and I used the same wood panel in the sauna, so that's why. It's a silly question, I know, but
it could have been, because last summer was so hot in Finland that I did work from sauna, because the sauna was the coldest place. So it could have been a sauna.
Okay, so you're the new president. What you want to achieve for your presidency in Finland, Ilona?
Yeah, so my hope for like the IA Finland, we are quite an old affiliate. We have our 30-year celebration this year, same as the global IA. So what I'm hoping to sort of like bring into the community in Finland and also invite all our Finnish Enneagram people to do is in a way to come together. Like how Milton was talking about how the global, it doesn't matter what's your sort of like Enneagram lineage or where you're coming from. So that is something our current board, me included, are really aiming to like bring all the people together and have them have discussions with each other and share their different views and like find the common ground instead of like being against each other depending on where you're coming from. So that's one of the biggest things I hope to achieve.
Beautiful, beautiful. About the topic that you will be presenting on, we've read in Ouspensky's book about Gurdjieff's explanation of how the energies in the Enneagram symbol goes, and we call it now the process Enneagram, and you'll be using this framework and speaking to us about peace. So I'm just inviting you to take the floor and share your screen and start your presentation. I'm looking forward to this.
All right. And while I'm sharing, I won't be seeing any of you. So if there are anything, just shout up so I know to check if there's something I need to take into account.
I'll notify you if need be, Ilona.
Okay. Oh, actually, I can see something. Okay. So my topic for today is titled From Keeping the Peace to Creating Peace, and especially taking a look through the process Enneagram, like how we can transform, how we can go from keeping the peace to creating peace with the help of the process Enneagram. And when we are talking about keeping the peace, it's I feel that it's many times it's something that we think is a good thing. Like we keep the peace. It's like we don't want to rock the boat. We don't want to cause any trouble. So we keep the peace. But what I'd like to propose is a slightly different view. I think regardless of what's our Enneagram type or style or what's like who we are on the Enneagram map, I think all of us we try to keep the peace in different kinds of ways. And many times, for example, we don't want to be rejected. We don't want to be attacked. We don't want to people to think badly of us. We don't want to look bad. So we keep the peace. There's a situation where something deep inside of us could want to say something, do something, but we keep the peace. And this is something I invite you, all of you who are listening to this, to think about yourselves. Like what kind of situations have been on your life when you have sort of like you have kept the peace. You maybe you didn't feel safe. Maybe you didn't want to cause someone else to feel bad. So you kept the peace. And what I'm proposing is that while keeping the peace sometimes is necessary. For example, if it's the only way to keep ourselves safe, then of course it's wise to keep the peace, to smile and nod and not cause any trouble. But when I think about keeping the peace, many times I get the sense that we lose a bit of ourselves when we keep the peace. We forget ourselves when we keep the peace. We are not being true to ourselves. And when we are not being true to ourselves, then there is no peace inside of us. And usually when there is no peace inside of us, then it's impossible for us to create peace outside. So how I see keeping the peace is this kind of more of a passive thing. It's many times something we have learned. It's something that's so ingrained in our being that we don't even notice we are doing it. And that makes us be mostly unaware or asleep when we do this. And of course, some Enneagram types might be more prone to do this, but I think we all do it in different situations, in different ways. So once you start to see in yourself, when you notice in yourself, oh, the thing I just did, the things I just said, it was to keep the peace. Then those are the moments for us to stop and look inside. Because I think mostly we keep the peace for other people's sake. We don't keep the peace for our own sake. And when we don't do it for our own sake, then we lose ourselves. And we are not being aware. So we keep the peace for many reasons and in many ways. And we might think that when we keep the peace, we create peace. Because if we don't cause any trouble, then the peace is maintained. But that's like at what cost? At the cost of ourselves. So if we want to actually create peace, it's not, I don't think creating peace is in a way like a concrete action necessarily. It's not something that I know that, oh, okay, if I build a house, then I create peace. Of course, it can be that. But mostly we create peace when we have peace inside of us. Because when we have peace inside of us, then we are being true to ourselves. And then it's easier for us to communicate like, this is who I am, this is where I'm standing, here are my boundaries, and my emotions are my responsibility, my reaction is my responsibility, your reaction is your responsibility. So we don't put our stuff onto other people, and then we also don't take other people's stuff onto ourselves. And that is something we can use to actually create peace. We can model peace for other people by working on ourselves. And the Enneagram is the best tool I have found for that. I'm also a big advocate for psychotherapy. So also like working on yourself psychologically, emotionally, somatically, like using all the centers, whole stuff. And how we can model creating peace for others, and also at the same time we create the peace for others. When we are at peace inside of us, it's much easier for us to, when we communicate, we want to come to a common ground. We want to come to a common understanding. We have more tools to actually communicate what's going on inside of us. what do I want? We can even risk asking for help. An 8 here talking about, oh, asking for help is a bit hard. But when we are at peace inside, we can ask for those things that we generally probably wouldn't ask for, and we can risk not receiving it, because asking is our responsibility and the other stuff is the other person's responsibility. And even if we are at peace with ourselves, then, for example, that kind of rejection, sure, it's not nice, it feels bad, but it doesn't sort of like it doesn't destroy our own peace, because we are grounded in our own peace. We are grounded in who we are. And I think one of the best things that we as an Enneagram community and as an Enneagram practitioners can do is to model to other people how working on ourselves, how doing inner work actually helps our lives, the people around us. When we are easier to be around with, then the people around us will, their lives will also be better. And doing inner work, like I said, keeping the peace is a passive thing. It's just something we don't think about. But actually working on ourselves and actually maintaining our own inner peace, that requires work. That requires intention. It requires an active doing. It requires that we do it constantly, because it's so easy for us when we get to a point we feel like, oh, now I'm at peace with myself. If we don't maintain that, then we will fall asleep again and become less aware. So with this being said, how can we use the process Enneagram to help us? I will not go that deep into the process Enneagram, because that could be like a 2-day workshop so I don't quite have that much time today, so this will be a really brief overview. Basically, when I think about a process, so a process by its nature is we start from something and then a transformation happens, things change, and then we end up at a different place. So for the process Enneagram, like Tom said, it comes from the Gurdjieff work and stuff like that. He had descriptions of like how energy moves around the symbol and what the process is like, and that sort of thing. In a really short nutshell, it's like every process has 7 steps. We start from the top of the Enneagram. The beginning and the end is where we usually in the Enneagram of personality we have the number 9. The first step goes from 9 to 1. The second from 1 to 2. I'll come a little bit back to this a little bit later. Then in the process Enneagram we have, because if you look at the Enneagram symbol, we have the inner triangle, and then we have the inner hexad that goes from 1, 4, 2, 8, 5, 7, and back to 1. So we have different symbols inside the symbol. So for the process Enneagram, once we get to the point 2, and I'm not talking about like the personality types, this is like the points on the Enneagram symbol. From point 2, we don't go to 3, because at 3, there's a shock point. And the shock point is an outer force, an energy that comes in the process and changes the process. And this by the process Enneagram theory, this happens with all the processes. And we can either use that outside force for like going along with the process or going down. So it can be, we can use it for advancing, or like it can like throw us off. So from point 2 on the Enneagram symbol, we go to point 4, then to point 5. Then at point 6, there's another shock point. Again, something out of our control happens to the process, and the process changes. Then we go to point 7, point 8, and then back to point 9. And in order to use this kind of process for our inner transformation, especially from keeping the peace to creating peace, we can, when we identify in ourselves, like what is one of our habits of keeping the peace, we can put that at the top of the symbol as the starting point. Like, this is where I'm beginning. And then we can imagine or think about what would be the change that we want to see. What is the end result? What do I look like when I've gone through the process and I'm actually in this one very specific aspect? I'm no longer keeping the peace, but I'm actually creating peace. Then we have our starting point and our ending point. And because that's usually different for each of us, because our type and life experience and everything affects it. Then we can map out like 7 different tasks or things that will get us from keeping the peace to creating peace. An example could be, for example, keeping the peace in a relationship. Like, for example, if my partner wants to go eat somewhere where I don't want to go, and this is a mild example, and I just go along, I could imagine, well, what would be like the end result would be that I would express myself. I would say, I don't actually feel like eating that. I would like to go somewhere else. Or, for example, I would like to stay home. I don't want to eat outside. So then I would think like, what are things that are actually preventing me from just saying that? And identifying those points, I could put like one of the things at the point 1 on the symbol. And then when we use the outside circle, we are actually using the process in a chronological order. So we advance in chronological order. So I could come up with all the 7 steps that I need to do or I need to work in myself in order to get to the end result. And then I would map them in the Enneagram symbol to the points 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, and 8, and also, of course, point 9 as the beginning and the end. And or I could use it as a calendar, like on January and February I will do this, and then March and middle of April at the point 2. And one of the most important things in the process Enneagram that we can use are the shock points, point 3 and point 6. Because usually if you think about any processes, usually you have a really good plan and then something unexpected happens and then you're thrown off. And it follows the process Enneagram. At the first half, like after the points 1 and 2, there will be something out of our control, some energy coming from outside, some outside force that will change, that will throw our plan out the window. And when we know that this is going to happen, we know approximately where to expect it. Then we can utilize the energy. We can take advantage of it. We can sort of like be like, okay, I know that I have mapped these 7 steps of my plan, and I know something weird, something unexpected will happen between the points 2 and 4. And then I can stay vigilant. I can wait for the energy. And when I notice something weird starting to happen, I can sort of like ride the wave. I'm more prepared. And that's also one of the things for our own inner work and using for our own inner peace. Like when we know and expect that there will be something that will rattle it, something that will try to shake it up, we are more prepared. We are not thrown off the wheel completely. And then we can go past the first shock point and also the second shock point. And one of the most common ways for these kinds of processes is to use it as a calendar for the year. So we can have our inner work process for a year. And for example, January, February would be at, as I said, at point 1, March, April around point 2. And then we know at the change of April and May, there's a shock point. And you can also look like past years. Has something weird always happened like somewhere around April and May? When I looked back into my life, I was like, yeah, like May, beginning of May, the end of April is usually there's something weird going on. And so then you can have like a time frame, and you can have, for example, in for January, February, you can have a step like, okay, I'm going to like set the intention. I can search for resources. I can set my goal. Then at the point 2, then you can start mapping out like, do I need to can I do this by myself? Do I need help from someone? Do I need a community? Do I need a partner to spar with? And then you can prepare for something coming from the outside and readying yourself to being open to those energies so that you can take it and take your inner work even farther. And since the process Enneagram isn't linear, because no process is linear, we like to think that we plan everything from the beginning to the end, and then everything goes according to the plan. I have no plans that have ever gone according to my planning. There's always something we haven't taken into account, always something unexpected happening. And in the past, when I hadn't worked on myself yet, I usually got discouraged. I stopped the process. I was like, oh, okay, I cannot continue because my plan didn't work out, and now I need to think of something else. And nowadays, I welcome the unknown, because there's usually always something to learn from that. There's always some energy, some new knowledge, some new experience that I can take in, and I can try to process it and see, what is this experience trying to tell me? What can I learn from this? How can this enhance my own inner work, my own inner peace? Especially, what is the peace offering I can find from this? Or how can I prevent this from disrupting my own inner peace? So at this World Enneagram Day, this is what I want to leave you with. This one thought exercise. Keep the peace inside you. As I said, keeping the peace isn't always bad, but if you keep the peace for other people's sake instead of your own sake, then you are not creating peace, even if your ego structure tells you now I'm creating peace. But when you keep the peace inside you, then it's inevitable that you also create peace outside of yourself. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ilona. It's been fascinating to follow you, and I've also seen some traction in the chat, especially from a couple of nines. Being a nine myself, I can really relate to their comments, because a nine is trying to avoid conflict, and by avoiding conflict, they are creating conflict. That's the secret behind that. So I really enjoyed that you elaborated from the start with how to keep your inner peace, and that's not sitting in a sofa with a remote and watching series on Netflix. That's really taking and looking into your shadow sides and not projecting them to others. I like that.
Yeah, keeping the peace or creating peace, it's not an easy task. It's not. Keeping the peace is easy, but creating peace is not easy, but it's worth it.
So what's the catch? Do you have a saying? Do you have an observation that you discover yourself? Now I'm leaving myself and try to keep peace. Do you have a question to yourself to be aware of that road?
I think for myself, being a body type, it's more like I get a sensation. After I keep the peace, I get this, like, it's almost, it's not quite disgust, but it's almost like it's an uneasy sensation inside me. And then when I get that one, then I can stop and I'm like, where is this coming from? And then when I pause and then I can analyze, I'm like, okay, I kept the peace, even though what I would have wanted to do was something else, or like what I should have done was speak up or like take action. And even though I'm an 8 with a lot of like action energy, I still keep the peace, especially in like close relationships. I go with what the other person wants, and then in those situations, when I get the uneasy feeling, I'm like, okay, now I need to actually speak up. Like maybe I have an insecurity in the relationship, and instead of talking about it, I decide to, like, unconsciously I decide to keep the peace, to maybe because deep inside I'm afraid that if I bring up this issue, maybe the other person will leave me or like get mad at me or whatever. So it's so much easier to, I won't just say anything about this, then there's no issue. But it's an issue for me. It eats up me inside. And the experiences that I've had, like when I actually speak up, like this is bothering me, And what I'd like for us to discuss, it always goes well. Like my partner is also, oh, of course, let's talk about it. And that creates peace. Then we exist more harmoniously, more friendly, and it creates more connection between us. So that's no phrase, but a sensation, this wasn't right.
I can relate to the body sensation as a warning sign. And actually, we see in the chat, Sarah Ann, my friend in South Africa, she's also a 9, type of 9. And she says that this ease is actually a behavior is taking me closer to what I really want. And being a 9, that's a hard thing. What do I want? And I usually find out later, after being accomplished, after having given in or making peace. I'm doing it unconsciously. I don't recognize my own sensation and the potentiality of listening to the sensation in the body, like you shared. Okay. Thank you so much, Ilona, for showing up and sharing, and all the best for your 30th anniversary celebration. Yes, you're, I think, the oldest affiliate, and all the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck with your celebrations.
You too. Have a good World Enneagram Day.
Thank you, Finland. Thank you, Ilona. We are changing tracks here. We're still 120 people registered and present at the moment, and this is a long call. People are showing up, exiting, going to friends or eating or whatever, and joining again. So we are 800 people registered for this World Enneagram celebration, and I'm thrilled to have people join like this and share their views on peace. So I am welcoming Jerry Wagner, Frederick Cohen, and my fellow board member Lucille Grief with me, and let's elaborate on peace, Enneagram and peace. Good morning, Jerry. How is it this morning?
It is morning here. Hi, Tom. Frederick, good morning or good afternoon.
Good afternoon for the European.
Middle of the night for some people.
Yeah, we started this call with having China and their late night in China now.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to span the globe like this, going east and going west to you, and you're having a morning. Have you had your coffee? It's right there. Nice to see you, Frederick. How is Belgium?
Good to see you all. I'm good. I'm in the Czech Republic right now.
You're in the Czech, okay. Yeah. Okay, Lucille, how has it been for you? You've been with us from the start. How has this been for you?
It's wonderful to be here, Tom, and lovely to see the amazing work that the different affiliates are doing. And the big celebrations happening, especially in China, over a whole week of World Enneagram Day. So it's World Enneagram Week there, and seeing people and their families and their children also doing things. So thanks to everyone who's contributed so far. And I dare say we're also going from north to south now. And I think that is an important move as we speak of peace as well today.
Yeah, so I'm and Frederick are in the north and you're in the way south. So that's an axis we'd like to acknowledge as well. So thank you for bringing that up. We need to be aware of the different seasons at the same time. Yeah. So, Jerry, how is it with peace? We've heard now different aspects already, and you're a psychologist, and you've been studying the human psyche for decades. Is there a connection between the Enneagram and personal peace?
Well, we'll find out. Um, so I started being, narcissistic. Well, what does peace mean to me? And then I thought, well, what would peace mean to each of the Enneagram types? And being a good scientist, I of course consulted no one about this. I just made all this up. So what I would like to do is have everyone just reflect on when are you at peace? What does peace mean to you? And I'll talk about this, but then, chime in a little bit about what you think too, so we could actually get a little reality and data into this idea. I also want to say I thought about this, thought about it, and then I said, well, let me see what AI has to say. I went to Chat GPT and I said, what does peace mean to the 9 Enneagram styles? It was really good. And I said, why did I waste all this time thinking about this? Answer is right there in cyberspace. It was so if you get bored with what I'm saying, go to chat, type in peace and Enneagram styles. It's amazing. Anyway, back to my idea. I was just thinking this morning because I had nothing better to do. Augustine said, our hearts are restless until they rest in thee. And so then I've got thinking, well, when is your heart restless? When is it at peace? And so that would be for the 2s, 3s, and 4s, the heart folks. And I wonder if it's when, you ask yourself, my heart is restless until, well, maybe until it rests in love. And then I thought, well, our minds are restless until they rest in truth. And then our bodies are restless, 8, 9, and 1, until they rest in peace. So maybe when you're gone, you'll be peaceful. So you might think about when does my heart, my mind, my body rest in peace? Or rest. When will it come to rest? So, okay, here I go. There's a high side, low side to the Enneagram. So I'm thinking, well, what is from the essence of each Enneagram style, what is their sense of peace? And so each of us has a perspective on reality. We got 9 different points of view. So what might they be? Because that's also true for us. We got all these 9 points in us, might favor a few. But what can we learn from each other? So that's part of what can we learn from each other? And so if the notion of peace comes from your essence, I think it turns outward. You use peace for others as well as yourself. There's a distorted notion of peace, I think, that each Enneagram style has that comes from the ego. So kind of an egoic perspective. And I think that's the one that kind of turns in. So what's in it for me as opposed to what's in it for everybody. And so part of what I'm doing is kind of looking at what each style values. And does that have something to do with when you are peaceful, when you realize this thing that's really important to you, that's valuable? And then we've got some distorted notions of peace, which ironically lead to unrest. It kind of stirs up our actual vice. And then we get in this vicious circle. We get the wrong idea, then we get the wrong feeling, and we're kind of in the wrong place, not a peaceful place. And one other thing I'm going to add to this is that I don't know who came up with this. Pat O'Leary and I are going to be doing a presentation at the IEA pre-conference day. We learned the Enneagram back it's like 71. And with the Middle Ages. And so we're going to talk about what we learned. But so somebody said anger goes with 8, 9, and 1. Sadness goes with 2, 3, and 4, and fear goes with 5, 6, and 7. So I'm working with that. I don't know where that came from, but could be. So for anger, when we're in our essence and we have that notion of peace, there's probably no room for anger. We don't have to be angry. And for sadness, if we're in our essence and we have the right idea of peace, then there's no need for it to be sad or melancholy. And when we are in our essence and we have, that kind of purchase on the truth, then there's no need for fear. So I'm going to bring that in as I talk. All right. So let's look at this for a minute. So if we take a look at the 1, and again, I'm making this up. So see what you think. Or if you are a 1, what does peace mean to you? So I think 1s are attracted to value good. They want to be good. They want to make the world a better place. According to scripture, God made the universe and said it's good, made that judgment. Ones could say, it could be better, but it's all right. So all will be well. When are you going to be at peace? Well, if you have the notion all will be well, everything is in its proper place. Someone described peace as the tranquility of order. So everything is ordered. And it's the notion that the universe is basically good. It's unfolding as it should. And so there's no reason to be angry. There's no reason to be resentful. The distorted notion of peace, I think, for the 1, and this is the ego, is saying, when I create this situation, both inside and outside, then I'll be at peace. And so I'll be at peace when I'm perfect, when you're perfect, when everything is perfect. So when there are no imperfections in my life, then I don't need to be resentful. And then I was thinking, well, unfortunately, if everything is perfect, then you've got entropy. There's no growth. There was a sense. And so 1s like to grow. They like to improve things. Well, if everything is already perfect, now what? Now what? Okay. And the other problem is oftentimes when we get what we think we want and need, we bring about the very thing we don't want. It's the irony of the ego. And so when you're the most perfect person in the room, what then? Well, then others tend to, devious that we are, we're going to look for your flaws. Hey, yeah, you're not so good. And then you're going to get angry. And that's actually going to disturb your peace. So you think when I'm perfect, then I'll be at peace, but actually we're going to bug you, and then you won't be at peace. You're going to be angry. So I'll put all this stuff up on my website, enneagramspectrum.com, or I don't know if people can have access to this, more power to them. But does that resonate, Frederick or Lucille? That say anything to you, or would you say, when I put on my 1 cloak, or when get inside of my 1 style, act as if I'm a 1, when would you be at peace? Probably has something to do with being integral, being
Very
good.
what you said there about the false notion of peace, wanting everything to be in perfection, creating entropy, which creates stagnation, which means it's really just a moment in time. That really resonated with me. This idea of peace being almost like riding a bike in some way. You have to find it all the time, the balance inside there. That made a lot of sense. And I love the notion of the tranquility of order.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if there is a potential egoic spark in there as well, because the pursuit of order can easily become the pursuit of perfection. It's such a fine line.
Yes. Nothing is simple. That's right. And I suppose now the ego would say it's my order. I know what the right order is, as opposed to, what is the order. All right. Let's talk about the twos. And then, because I know you two are going to talk about, the peace in the group, peace in the world. I'm in the individual here. So for the two, I think so. One's value goodness. I want to be good. Thing is good if it is what it is, if it does what it's supposed to do. I think two's value love. So when will the two be at peace? Well, when we love each other and we contribute to each other's well-being, the building up of the world, the building up of the community, then we'll be at peace. And so it's the sense that the foundation, the glue of the universe is love. So all is love. For ones, all is good. So in love is larger and enfolds sadness. So yeah, grief is the price we pay for love, and yet love is somehow bigger than grief. So all is love. Now, the false notion, what the twos do where they exaggerate this or they twist it a little bit, is that I can be at peace when I am loved and I am appreciated, I'm accepted, I'm approved of. Everybody, of course, has to do this, but then I'll be at peace. So when there's no rejection in my life, I won't be sad. There's no need to be sad. Now, if there isn't any fear of rejection, the very thing that threes value, which is a two's connection and being in relationship, there's no reason, there's no necessity for affiliation and connection. Well, I'm loved, so now what's the sense? Now the other problem is when you are the most helpful person in the room, people are going to constantly seek your help, and that will disturb your peace. You're available 12/7. Now, so you're going to be restless, but your ego will be all puffed up, and it's going to be really good for your pride. And so you got this vicious circle set up again. I'm helpful, and I'm really proud of how helpful I am. So the twos have to think about, oh, okay, when am I at peace, really? And again, chime in if you got any responses, things like that, brilliant, or that was really one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. So feel free to comment. I'm far away, you can't hurt me. So let's talk about the threes. When I asked people, what made it a good day, or what do you look forward to at the beginning of the day? At the end of the day, the threes often say, I got a lot done today. I, as a five, I'd say, oh, I learned a lot today. Twos would say, I helped somebody today. Ones, I made things a little better, But for the threes, I got a lot done. So I accomplished things. So for when peace comes to the three, when all is accomplished, the universe is running efficiently. They have the idea it's a cosmos, this harmonious integration of all these different integrated parts. Everything is working together, and creation has achieved its purpose. So that's important for threes. I accomplished what I set out to do. So the universe is doing what it is meant to do, and so there's no reason to be sad. Now, the threes are going to get the idea in the ego that when I'm successful, when I'm recognized, when I shine, admired, then I'll be at peace. So when I have the sense I can do it, I can do it, I can do it, the little engine that could. So when there's no inefficacy, there's no inefficiency in my life, there are no big words, then I can be at peace. And there's nothing to be sad about. Now, and here's the problem is, paradoxically, when you have done everything, there's no more purpose in your life. Well, now what am I here for? So it's good to have a few things that still got to do. And when you're the most efficient person in the room, and I think threes will acknowledge this, people will invariably ask you to do things for them. If you want something done, ask a busy person. and then you'll have no rest. But again, this will enliven your vanity. So now we're back in the vicious circle again. Of course I can do it. And then you are vain. So threes. And again, there's no reason to be sad. Everything is done. So with fours, what's the value for fours? Threes want to make the world a more smooth running place, a more efficient place. Twos want to make it more loving. Ones want to make it better. Fours want to make it more beautiful. Beauty. There's something calming, peaceful about beauty. Think about it. Nature. They also want to make things authentic. Be who you are, be what you are. So everything is what it is. It's authentic. For the right idea of peace, everything is inner and outer, interconnected. Everything belongs. All is grace. Nothing is missing. There's no need to be sad. I think Tolle said, right now I have everything I need to be perfectly happy. Well, I could be making this a little clearer. No, right now I have everything I need to be perfectly happy. I think that's true. Stay in the here and now. So the fourth egoic notion, the false notion, I can be at peace when I am seen to be special and when I belong. So there's that fear of being abandoned, being outside the club. So if there is no ugliness, there's no isolation in my life, then I won't be melancholy. But sadly, the problem with that is when I'm completely unique and like no one else, no one could possibly understand me. Irony. And when you are the most sensitive person in the room, which fours take pride about, then people will inevitably hurt your feelings. And that will disturb your peace when you get what you want, and you will become envious of people who are peaceful. So again, the vicious circle. All right, fives. Again, I'll make this available. You can see it, or go to Chapt, get another point of view. So 5, 6, 7. So now we're dealing with fear underlying our defensive strategies. And I'm thinking, well, what are fives attracted to? What makes it a good day? I learned something. Then I think truth. So, being is one, it's good, it's true. So I think that's what fives we resonate with. And so reason kind of oversees the universe, the nous, the noosphere. And the meaning of life is apparent. When will I be at peace? I think it's when I get it. I might have to die to get it, but then I'll know, oh, that's what it's all about. Or maybe I could be a mystic, then I might get it. But here, it's like the essence of the universe is consciousness, and that replaces fear. I get it. It's like Viktor Frankl, man's and woman's search for meaning. If I know the why, I can kind of put up with any what. So why? So meaning. I get it. Makes sense. So the exaggeration for the five ego is I can get peace when I know everything. And when there's no ignorance in my life, I don't have to be afraid. I know the rules. I know how everything works. Now, the problem is, unfortunately, when I know everything, there's nothing left to learn. So what's the sense? I got nothing to look forward to, nothing to look back on. Okay, I know everything. Now that I'm God, now what? So when you're the smartest person in the room, you can't learn anything. And and which that makes you then the dumbest person in the room. And then you're going to be even more avaricious to get more knowledge. So there's a price to pay for being the smartest person in the room. Fives. So the six, what do sixes value? Faith, hope, and love. So I would say faith. So the laws of the universe are benevolent and they're beneficial. They're beneficent. They wish us well. They work well to maintain our well-being. And the laws of the universe can be known and followed. And if so, then the laws of the universe can be trusted and we don't have to fear them. They will keep us safe, secure. The force is with you, not against you. We're on your side. We're not on the other side. So the six is, I think the false idea is when I have considered every possible consequence of my actions, I'm prepared to deal with them all, then I can be at peace. If there is no doubt in my life, then I will no longer be afraid. But again, the tragedy there is when I am dogmatic, I'm really restrained. Things are very rigid. I'm rigid and I'm not free, and I'm ironically not safe. And so the problem with fear is that when you are the most anxious and the most suspicious person in the room, people will continually disturb your peace. And that's going to make you more fearful. So you would think that paranoia is there. Well, it's there. It's a defense, a projection. But actually, it makes you even more liable for harm. So, okay, so we got faith, hope, and love. We covered faith. We got love for the twos. Hope, that's the seven. All is hope. All will end well. All will be fulfilled. And there's nothing to worry about. All will be well. All manner of things will be well. Hopeful. That's what sevens bring. Very positive, optimistic view of the world. Now, the ego for the seven pushes that too far, gets the slightly wrong idea, is that when I can be at peace when I have experienced everything. I've exhausted all my options. When there's no pain, suffering, or darkness in my life, then I won't be afraid. So now the problem is, regrettably, when I have experienced everything, there's no more adventure and I won't be bored. It's the very thing that I'm trying to avoid, being bored. I say, ask sevens, what's so wrong about being bored? It's like being dead. Oh, now I can see why you don't want to be bored. And again, if you're the bubbliest person in the room, sadists that we are, we're going to try to burst your bubbles, get real, come down to earth. And so that's going to upset you. You're raining on my parade, you're ruining my party, and then you're going to be gluttonous for even more good times and experiences. So when you achieve being the most optimistic, positive person in the world, you actually then have this fear, well, I might be missing out on something, FOMO. All right, 8, 9, and 1, anger. So eights act out their anger, ones act it in, beat themselves up, and poor nines are stuck in between. Well, should I express my anger? Should I keep it in? Should I express it, but then I'll, lose my composure? Should I keep it in, but then I'll be upset and you go back, lullaby and good night, yada da da. You fall asleep on your anger. Oh, Or it's like being in the center of a hurricane, all this commotion is going on either side of you, and you say, oh my God, I'm going to go to sleep. All right. So what's the idea for the 9? I mean, for the 8, 891. So all is just. Justice is important for the 8. So the Martin Luther King said the arc of the universe bends towards justice. That would be the divine idea, the right idea. So everybody's rights are honored, everyone gets their due, and so the 8 can let go of their anger. There's no need to be angry. Justice will out. What goes around comes around, karma. Now, I think the 8's ego would be saying, I can be at peace when I'm in control, and my strength will keep me safe. So when there is no vulnerability in my life, then I no longer need my anger to protect me. So anger is this shield that you wear, or the teeth and the claws. So now, ironically, again, the strongest person in the world, and Muhammad Ali said this, the strongest person in the world is also the loneliest and actually the most exposed. So when you're the strongest person in the room, people will want to topple you, and that will disturb your peace. And then you'll become even more lustful for power and control. So it might look good being a dictator, but you know what happens to dictators. All right. So justice. 8, 9, all is one. So unity, the harmony of the spheres, the sense of this unitary consciousness rather than a dual consciousness. Separateness is an illusion. And anger arises from separation, so it's no longer needed because you got the idea we are all one. That's good for you, good for me. The false idea for the 9, I can be at peace when I'm content, when I'm satisfied, when I'm settled. When there's no conflict or upset in my life, then there's nothing to be angry about, no friction. But since there's no friction in my life, I won't stand out because I blend in, I've merged, and so I'll be overlooked, which then makes the 9 very angry. So when I am the most effaced person in the room, people will not notice me. My real needs won't be met. That'll upset me. I must resign myself then, settle for what I have, and become more indolent. So does anything that resonate with you? Tom, you are the resident expert on being a 9. You will now speak for all the 9s in the world.
It's
Any of
painful.
that ring a bell with you?
Yes, this is really painful. I fell asleep while being in the center of the hurricane. And when you sang the lullaby, I almost snored.
Very soothing, yes.
So it's really visceral. I'm really feeling the need for being undisturbed.
Yeah.
I'm so afraid of voicing myself that I'm forgetting myself, and I'm being a nobody in others' presence, and by being that, I am creating conflict, which I hate.
The way it works, all right. Yeah, that's very, I've never heard it put that way. I'm nobody in everybody's presence. Yeah. 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 Now, I suppose, just stop me because I'm going to free associate forever here. But I was talking to someone who is a 3 and being insignificant. Oh, so you could think about ways how I am significant, or I suppose you could go with it. I am nobody. I'm insignificant. I know nothing, all those things. And out of that horrible state, if you just stay with it, perhaps significance comes, perhaps I am somebody. But you have to stay with the very thing that is so awful. So I encourage you to do that. I am not going to do it, but let me know how that works. Yeah. Now, I realize I have bypassed my colleagues here. Lucille, you can speak for all the fours in the world, and Frederick, I think you said 6 fits you. What would you say now that you've had 3 seconds to think about it? What does peace, Lucille, mean for you?
I think I really resonate when I go at an ego superficial level, Jerry. There's something about that compelling storyline of if I were to belong and if people were to understand me, then in some way I would be at peace, but I'm also differentiating all the time. And so that's really easily getting trapped in that ego version of what peace means. And that deeper notion of peace really has to do with believing in a universe where everything belongs. And from that place, there even the differentiation is part of the belonging. Yeah. In some way. I think there's also like a body version of this for me, which maybe links to equanimity inside the Enneagram 4, which has to do with when my nervous system is regulated enough for me to be able to offer co-regulation to others. That is a version of being at peace versus a dysregulated nervous system that, might in some way be expressing my authentic emotions. But actually has the impact on the whole. And for me, that is the interesting part when we start thinking about the relationship between inside and outside. I think sometimes our Western ideas can be very individualistic around peace, where, what is the communal versions of peace, which I think we can talk about a bit later.
Yeah. And was it your fellow countrymen who said that? Be the peace that you want to show the world, or be at peace inside to bring that peace to the outside. I don't know if that was Desmond Tutu or somebody said that.
Yeah, well, Desmond Tutu said very interesting things. He was one of the people who, like Martin Luther King Jr. said, there is no peace without justice.
Yeah.
So yes.
Yeah, that's right. And Frederick, how about you?
What you were saying about the 6 really resonated very well with me. Maybe just as a matter of semantics, you spoke of doubt. I would use the word worry, maybe even more, because for me, finding my inner peace happens when there's no more worry. For me, specifically, worry in the domain of self-preservation. When I know that I have money on the bank account, when I know that the car is in a good condition when I have to travel somewhere, when I know that everything is organized when we're going somewhere. So it's all about the whole preparedness, about practical issues. That is when I feel this inner peace. Also when I feel safe. And we'll talk about it in a bit when I'll give a more elaborate description of like how it is as a self-preservation 6 to live in times of war. And there's an interesting paradox here, I think, with 6s and safety. Sometimes 6s are described as, it's as if like we're lacking courage. I think there's some kind of ambiguity about courage. I think many 6s, like one day there is no courage, the other day they're full of courage. Like one moment they don't trust anything or anybody, and the next day they just trust like everybody. For example, in my case, when I meet somebody first time, I'll just believe them on face value. I'll just believe them. And there's some kind of schizophrenia about this whole trust and courage and so on. But I think we'll talk about that a little bit later when it's about war and sixes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I often think that sixes are the most courageous people of all because we're clueless about, I could walk out and an airplane could fall on my head, but you've already thought about that, or I could walk out and an earthquake could happen and I'd be swallowed up and be in the middle of the earth. And so the fact that sixes get out of bed in the morning is an amazing sign of courage because you know all the things that could go wrong, and yet you keep going.
Yeah, just to give
like
an
feel
example,
the fear and do it anyway.
Yeah, look, for example, I started my professional career in a war zone. I started working in Chechnya. And the risk of kidnapping was pretty high. There were only 20 foreigners where we were living, and we knew like the chance of getting kidnapped is about 10%. That's pretty bad, right?
Really?
Or when I was working in Ukraine, and we were evacuated. I was working as a diplomat in Ukraine, and before the war started, we were evacuated. But I was one of the first people to go back. A similar example, we had a nanny who's a self-preservation six. She's Filipino, and she's afraid of everything, yet she traveled to the other side of the world. She had been working in a family in Kuwait. They took her passport and she was beaten, all these kind of things. And yet she was still traveling to another part of the world. And it's not only because of the money, there is something else as well. So I think that very interestingly, sixes are actually seeking out ways of being courageous somehow.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily out of essence.
And I often think of the loyalty of the six. The loyalty puts you in harm's way. Yeah. I've just noticed that someone put in the chat room, it's Gandhi who said, be the peace you want to bring to the world. Yeah, wrong country.
Yeah.
And someone also said, what's that?
Yeah, there's another question, Jerome. Jerry, what's the impact of the instincts on our overall sense of peace? And Frederick was talking about self-praise, but what's your sense of how the social and the sexual instinct has an impact on peace?
Yes, thank you. Funny you should have mentioned that because that's what I have next in my notes about the instincts. All right, perfect setup. So here's what I had thought about the instincts. So we got these three instincts. Mother Nature has evolved these. So we got a self-preservation instinct to keep us alive. We've got the social instinct to keep us connected. And we've got the sexual instinct to keep the human race going. So to be creative. Now, so then I was thinking, okay, you can use these instincts for the individual, or you can use them for the community. So the self-preservation instinct is I'll do whatever I can to stay alive. I'll do whatever I can to belong to a group. I'll do whatever I can to prolong my genes or my legacy. Or I'll do whatever I can to help others stay alive, to help them belong, to help them be generative. So that instinct can be for the individual and it can also be for the community. And so now I suppose what we need to remember is just because we have this instinct doesn't mean it's necessarily always good. It can be misused. And as human beings, we can screw up anything. So we might need our cerebral cortex, our mind, we might need our emotional center, our heart, to sometimes override these instinctual movements in us. So our instinct to survive, I was thinking you can distort it and resort to homicide or genocide to maintain your life, your lifestyle. So it's the old, I either need to convert you to my way of thinking or I need to kill you. But now we're kind of in the social instinct. And so when you create a group, because that's the best way to survive as a herd creature, then you got in groups and you got out groups. You got friends, you got enemies. Sixes can resonate with all this. You've got like-minded people who look like you, alien people who don't look like you or think like you. And so surely this will never happen. We start to close the gates, we close the borders to immigrants, we promote nationalism, distortion of that instinct. Or maybe it's something that we need to be aware of. This is what happens when you form groups. It's good news and bad news. And the instinct to procreate, the sexual instinct, when it gets maybe misused, you forbid bonding, you forbid mating for anybody except heterosexual couples, and you discourage adopting, you discourage surrogacy by any homosexual partners. So you can misuse that instinct. I've saw this quote by Pope Francis, where I do all my reading. I think it was on Facebook. Someone put it there, and I just really like this. So he said, rivers do not drink their own water. Trees do not eat their own fruit. The sun does not shine on itself. Flowers do not spread their fragrance for themselves. Living for others is a rule of nature. We are all born to help each other, no matter how difficult it is. Life is good when you are happy, but much better when others are happy because of you. I think that's lovely. Yeah. So, when others are at peace, we'll be at peace. All right. So that's the individual. So, Lucille, you work with groups, and Frederick, you work with the world. What do you got to
Well, it's
share
such a
here?
it's such a beautiful segue, that
Mhm.
that notion, the individual into the world in many ways. I think, it's a useful question to ask is, why do we do the work? Exactly as you say. Do we just do the work for ourselves, which is essentially an egoic question, for me to be a better human? Or is it we do the inner work so that the outer world can be a better place? So is it I do my work to bring what's inside to the outside world? And I think from there, it's an interesting conversation in some ways between Northern Hemisphere philosophy and Southern Hemisphere philosophy. So like kind of Northern Hemisphere existentialism, which is all about, peace has to do with me living my authentic life, and in the face of the absurdity of the world, as Camus would say, or when we come to be at peace with our death, with our transitional selves, or when there's no more bad faith in our lives. Whereas the Southern Hemisphere, where there's been a lot more a history of a lot of colonialism and racism and apartheid and all kinds of oppression in the world, the existential thinkers say that peace is not the absence of war, but the presence of justice. It's being free to define ourselves and to reclaim our narratives, but it's and not accepting the colonial gaze and reclaiming ourselves. But there's a sense of not just for us, but for justice and liberation to be true for a broader communal self. And it's an invitation, I think, to all of us on the call to ask, why do we do the inner work? So that our people may live in many ways. And I think, Frederick, you've had some direct experiences of navigating from an inner to an outer lack of peace in many ways. And maybe there's some of your story you want to share, and then we can come back to talking about things like groups and organizations as well.
Okay, yeah, thanks. Well, maybe first of all, I want to talk a little bit about how the Enneagram helped me to stay sane during wartime. Because, well, as I briefly said, I was working in Ukraine, then the war broke out. were evacuated, and a few months later, I went back to Ukraine, and I stayed there for about a year and a half. Now, if you are in a country that's at war at nighttime, very often you have just rockets flying over your head, sometimes explosions, and so on and so on. You're not living in a peaceful environment. Your nervous system is constantly at the highest state of alert. You're always, and especially for me, I get very anxious then. So how did the Enneagram help me? Well, first of all, I think that it was a very good way to explore myself, just to see like, look, Frederick, what's happening to you? Why are you reacting the way that you are reacting? And indeed, as a self-preservation six, there are some being a self-pres six in this kind of situations is not necessarily bad. It's a good defense mechanism because it makes you prepared. And I was prepared for like anything. But this constant search for preparedness is not giving you this kind of inner peace. But the good thing was that I had a backpack. I was always ready to leave if needed. I always had my passport on me. I always had some water with me. I had some food for at least 1 or 2 days. In the house where I was living, I could heat on electricity, on gas. I bought wood for the stove so I could heat when there was no electricity for a few days in a row and it's -10 outside. I had water in the bathtub because if there's no electricity, the water system doesn't work. So I was basically prepared for anything. And then if colleagues were complaining that, oh, I couldn't take a shower because I didn't have water, it was like, haha, you see, I was prepared. I knew this was going to come. So sure, the preparedness makes it possible to survive, but it doesn't help your central nervous system. And this is why you also have to look at something else. And this is why at some stage you just see that this is not really helpful. Yes, I should not throw this aboard. I should not throw away my backpack and stuff like that. But it's not the only thing. And actually what I did was I started looking at other things that really did help me. And they're actually not necessarily Enneagram related. It's not about tapping into my 3, tapping into my 9 or anything like that. It was just basic things like doing sports. Sports makes your body healthier and it helps your central nervous system. Another thing that I did was, well, it's a practice that I did before, but I just made it even stronger, was just gratitude. Every evening before going to bed, I would just express my gratitude and just talk to myself about the things that I could be grateful about. And actually, very paradoxically, I'm actually very grateful that I had the experience of living in a war zone. Because it gave me the opportunity to see things about myself. Yes, it's a horrendous situation, people suffering. I mean, the personal drama for so many people is huge. Yet at the same time, it's often in this kind of moments that we can learn the most about ourselves because the reactivity is higher, the triggers are much higher, and so on. Another thing, for example, was just stopping to drink alcohol. No alcohol. I mean, especially for sixes, right? Alcohol is the perfect tool to repress the anxiety, and it just gets bigger afterwards. So you just drink again to lower it again. And I just quit drinking alcohol completely. And it really helped me just to feel more grounded, to be more present, to really feel like, okay, are you anxious right now? Yes or no? What's happening? I also didn't eat meat for 2-3 years. I just started eating meat again very recently, just very little. But I could actually notice the impact that meat had on myself. There's a certain aggression in the meat, and that I did not feel after I became vegetarian. Another thing that I did was cultivating this faith. At some stage, at some point in time, you just have to say, look, I can prepare as much as I want, but still anything can happen. I had moments when, for example, I was in my bedroom, suddenly there's an explosion just 500 meters away. The whole house is trembling, the windows are trembling, and so on. And that's a moment when you just have to say, look, you can prepare as much as you want, but if your time has come, it has come. The danger of this kind of fate is that it can become fatalistic, that you can just say, well, nothing depends on me in any case, so whatever happens, happens. And this is why I said that the preparedness of the 6 should not just be kicked out. I mean, it's not because you have fate that you no longer have to start taking care of yourself. I think another thing that the Enneagram really helped me to deal with was that people get very easily triggered. The tensions are much higher. You never know what's going to happen. After some time, it really starts weighing on people, and people get really triggered very easily. And then the question is, how do you react to the triggers of other people? Do you allow yourself also to get triggered or not? Are you able to find this kind of regulation in yourself? Because you cannot always find co-regulation. You cannot always go to somebody to talk things through and to find peace of mind again through the others. Sometimes you just have to regulate yourself. So I think that that's something that the Enneagram can really help us with, to find this peace for ourselves. So that's just something that I wanted to say about how it is as a real life case experience of self-preservation 6 in the wartime. But maybe something else that I wanted to talk about is that working in a diplomatic setting is very interesting, very rewarding, but there is also some downsides to it. Diplomats are not necessarily known for their open-mindedness. Objectivity is not their strength. At the end of the day, as a diplomat, you are there to defend the interests of your sending state, of your home country. You're not there to show any empathy to the other side. Yes, that's a nice bonus, but at the end of the day, your main purpose is to make sure that the interests that you're defending, that they're well defended. As a result, all this kind of self-reflection, objectivity, and so on are not necessarily characteristics you will find with most diplomats. What I have done, actually very interesting, just a few years before the war started, is I have been teaching the Enneagram to 20 colleagues of mine, 20 diplomats. And it's been a very interesting experience, not only just because you start talking to your colleagues in a completely different way, but you also see certain trends. For example, that most top diplomats are either 3s or 8s. 3s if they're from a small country and they really have to try to show that they're a lot, although their country is on a global stage rather meaningless. Or they're type 8 for the countries that are very powerful and they're just going to show this power to the rest of the world. But it was very interesting to speak to colleagues and just to hear their different perspective. And also actually afterwards, so when the course was over and we were in the war, it was interesting to see that the colleagues who had studied the Enneagram, they seemed to have less problems actually. They were less freaked out when the war broke out and all this kind of things. I don't know if it is because of the Enneagram, because maybe the people who took this Enneagram course that I gave, these were the people who are already ready for it. So it's hard to see a direct correlation. But still, the fact is that the people who had studied the Enneagram with me during the war, they were much more open-minded. They were less into demonizing the other side of the war. It was not that much they versus us. They were a little bit more relaxed. Of course, after the war continues and all of this fades, of course. But I do believe that it would be interesting to try to teach the Enneagram to diplomats. And this is one of the ambitions that I have for the future in my professional career. Thanks to the work that I did in Ukraine, I do have access to the higher levels. And I will be able to teach that to many more diplomats that are actually working worldwide for the European Union. And again, I do not believe that this is going to create a major change in the world, but it's one of these small things and all the small bits can help, I believe. Yeah, I think these were the main points that I wanted to raise.
Wow, Frederick, thank you so much. That is such a beautiful reflection on what must have been a really difficult time. And thank you for the work that you do, not just with the Enneagram, but also for the way in which you show up in your diplomatic work.
Thank you, Frederick. I just want to express my gratitude and bringing this forward, and also connect to Patrick, who is presenting from Denmark, and he is actually working in the army, and he will give his views and perspectives from inside the force itself. So, but that's in the next block and a few hours down the lane. I have a question going back to the individual before we go to the groups, Jerry. And you have this strong voice in saying that the ego play is making others accomplices in your own ego play. Could you reflect just actually we're captivating the ones around us when we're playing our ego? Isn't that the notion behind the accomplice thing? And how does it relate to the peace and non-peace aspect?
Can I have a day and a half to think about that? So that's some ideas that I borrowed from a psychologist that I really like, but he talks about how if we want to keep our own way of being in the world going, we need to audition people who will be accomplices. And so as a 5, if I want to keep my vision that the world is intrusive or the world is withholding, then my unconscious needs to find people, even though I don't want them to be, find people who are intrusive, find people who are withholding. And then you end up saying, damn, here we go again. How did this happen? How come I keep marrying alcoholics? Because I mean, I suppose that's part of the pattern. So it's helpful to recognize that. Or if you're a 4, you will, even though you don't want to be abandoned, you're going to find people who are likely to dump you, will abandon you. Or 6s are going to find people who you think are going to keep you safe, but maybe you settle on an 8, and then they get in a bad space and they scare the hell out of you. And so you say, well, what, are we that crazy? And the answer is yes, we are. We keep doing that. And I don't know, Tom, you'll have to reflect. Well, do you want people to be peaceful and calm? And so do you find yourself with people who upset you?
They're called spouses, aren't they?
Yes, that is correct. Or children, either one.
Yeah, both.
Yeah, that's right. I'm laughing. Well, I don't want to. My neighbor, who they both passed away, I'm sure he was a 9 and she was an 8. And you say, how can those two get together? And it was great. So anyway, so we pick people who kind of continue our programming, and so I suppose we initially pick people that we think will lead to us being in a state of peace. But then they disturb us. Now, having said that, I'm just recently talking to someone, and it reminded me that if you grow up in a family where there is chaos, that's what you're used to. And so now you're going to recreate that in your next family. I would like to be at peace, but suddenly there's chaos. There's just dysfunction all around. And you say, how does that happen? How do you, of all the millions of people in the world, how do you find this person that's going to, be just like your mother or your father? I tell you, our unconsciouses are really good. So I think that might be what you're referring to. I've got that article is on my website too, and I should go back and read it so that I could answer your question a little bit better. But it has to do with the irony of how the very thing we're trying to avoid, we manage to create. The damnedest thing. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. This is also an aspect of this, and it's part of the unconscious. So is there a question? Is there some sign that I could notice when I'm doing this, enacting others, accomplishing others?
Well, yeah, what immediately comes to mind is that when the nine is saying it doesn't make any difference, it's no big deal. Basically, you're saying I don't matter and you don't matter. So if you find yourself kind of projecting your narcotization, so I'm going to numb everybody down. If you find yourself doing that, as opposed to, well, tell me more about your upset, then you're kind of prolonging that kind of defensive maneuver. Let's take a break. Let's take a breath. Let's come back in a year and a half and we'll see if we can deal with this. So that might be a trigger. You'd have to, again, I'm making this up as we go along. Your body might be telling you something too. If you notice, I'm feeling something in my body, and before you get a chance to numb it out, to have a beer or order a French fries, what is it that's going on inside of me? So then you're getting in touch with, here's what I want, here's what I need, here's who I am. And so don't notice any kind of bodily disturbances if you can catch them before you numb them out.
Yeah, I can resonate with that, Jerry. That's usually the case when I can stay a second with the sensation in my body and not discourage it, but stay with it for a second, and then I get the choice normally.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Let's go back. Thank you. Let's go back, Lucille. How is this peace work in a more communal or group setting? What's your experience in that field?
Maybe just a quote first to link the conversation you've been having with Jerry into what I want to share. It's a quote by Frantz Fanon, and I'm going to give it as Frantz Fanon said it, and then maybe do an individualist spin on it. So Frantz Fanon, who's an Afrikaner existentialist, wrote that I am not the slave of the slavery that dehumanized me and my ancestors. Yeah. And if we read this in a different way, I am not the slave of my ego that wants to dehumanize me and recreate the patterns of my family of origin. Could be another way of working with that principle between the individual and collectivistic notions. But yeah, this notion of peace in groups is an interesting one. Maybe a bit of a story that links some of Frederick's experience with some of the work that I do with groups and in organizations. So I've been doing work for the last couple of years with people in conservation. And in our part of the world, a lot of conservation in the last 10 years has had to be militarized. Now, people who go into conservation naturally go there because of their love for nature and wanting to protect in some way nature. And there's different versions, fortress versions of conservation versus being in relationship with the communities around the conservation areas. That's maybe another rabbit hole. But with so much poaching, especially rhino horn poaching, poaching of pangolin, poaching of ivory, etc., there are some parts of our country's conservation areas that really became like war zones from about 2012. And we're seeing some resurgence now at the moment. But what happened is the first phase of working with the sudden incredible, like from occasional poaching into organized crime coming into conservation areas and really through very violent means, killing lots of animals for the ivory, and for purposes that make no logical sense. Let's just say that. The first thing that happened is the army was asked to become part of conservation. So a retired general was made the head ranger. He had no conservation experience, but he changed everything about conservation, put military ranks in, got military grade equipment. And so now we have the war on poaching happening. So this played out for a period of time until people realized that this actually led to an escalation on all sides. So the more sophisticated we are in fighting poachers, the more violent the means the poachers bring in. And so we've got the opposite of what one would have in peace happening, an escalation into more and more violent means. And so at some point they realized that they needed to change tack, and then rhinos were dehorned. And once you take the horns, and rhinos can live without their horns, they actually regrow. And so once you take the horns away, the reason for poaching goes away. And so then all of a sudden, the target goes towards the place where the rhino horns are stored, which is another story. But in this time, what you had were really people who had very little experience of this kind of war-based tactics, but still had a very natural relationship between life and death. You know, sometimes in conservation, you have to shoot an elephant, all kinds of things like that happen. But they become military personnel. And so I started working the new head ranger, who's been in place for a number of years in this area, is an amazing woman. Interestingly, they went from a retired general to a woman that's in charge. And she's been working on helping to restore conservation to conservation. So instead of 90% crime prevention, to get back to a place where more and more of their work is conservation based. But as I started doing the work, you can imagine the kind of group of people from a leadership level all the way through the ranks that I inherited for the work. They were had PTSD. Many of them were trying to deal with the stress that had built up in all the ways that people that have PTSD do. A lot of relationships, family relationships had broken down. And a lot of the behavior that had become entrenched was really the low side of the types in many different ways. And literally 2 people in very senior leadership that had refused to speak to each other, for example, for more than 4 years. They come into meetings, they don't make eye contact, they just keep working in that way. And so part of the work we did was to teach the rangers the Enneagram and to specifically also teach the levels of health inside the different Enneagram types so that people could start seeing their behavior and start seeing themselves through a more compassionate light. And the impact that just having the Enneagram as a frame of reference, what this meant for them was just amazing because it helped colleagues forgive each other. Oh, I've just been upset for you for showing your stress in an Enneagram 8 way, while I've shown my stress in an Enneagram 2 way. And we actually both need help. And we actually, neither one has the moral high side. And so the space of recovery from war, the Enneagram, and from violence in a variety of different ways, the Enneagram is incredibly helpful in the cycle of repair and for helping people to understand their triggers and be kinder to each other. And so that's an interesting thing, Frederick. Maybe the question would be, you know, there are times of war where survival is part of what we need to navigate. And then what happens after wars have ended as well? And how do we work with cycles of repair? And I think that's part of what in our country has also happened after the end of apartheid, where Desmond Tutu, who was in that camp of justice and peace belong together, you know, leading the TRC, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, so that cycles of repair could start happening. And I think that's part of the process of peace as well. There will be times where there will be war. And how can the Enneagram help us not just survive that and maybe broker peace, but also then repair from cycles of peace or cycles of war? Yeah, and then just one or two thoughts about maybe, and I think it will lead into what's next on the program, which is talk about peace in organizations. I think our Norwegian colleagues are going to talk about that. But peace in an organizational context. I think they're interesting things to think about. If you think about an organization and the motives of your typical for-profit organization, and the fact that we have resource constraints and we're trying to make a profit and we're trying to be effective, you know, is a peaceful organization actually something to strive for? And what would that look like? And I'd offer that this idea of peace and justice going together, the organizational version of that is maybe fairness. What does an organizational setting look like where there is fairness? And that's the kind of peace we want, as opposed to peace in the asleep Enneagram 9, absence of conflict, keeping the peace way. In working with executive teams, I often say, if your executive team are not having really healthy conflict with each other, you're not doing your jobs, because you're managing trade-offs, you're having to figure out how to work with a budget, you're responding to market forces. And if you all agree with each other, then you're probably acting in fairly simplistic and uninterrogated ways. So what's one of the hallmarks of a good decision is that there's been dissent, and we've spoken about the risks and we've come to grips with it, you know. So that's the one piece. When we think about peace in organizations, we need to think about whether the decisions we make are fair. And there's a whole kind of pathway of thought there to go down, which is everything to do with income differentials and how we think, you know, how much does a CEO get paid versus the entry-level workforce, and who gets to go on leave, and, you know, how people work with women and men's needs, and who gets heard at the boardroom table. So there's a lot of things around fairness. The other aspect of peace that is useful in an organizational context is to work with the idea of psychological safety. And psychological safety, one of the main scholars that work with this is a woman called Amy Edmondson. And her, if you boil down her definition of psychological safety, she says psychological safety is the place where we will feel safe enough in our teams to take interpersonal risks. And interpersonal risk-taking would look like stating your opinion instead of keeping quiet, owning up to mistakes when you've made them rather than feeling you have to hide them, saying you don't know rather than pretending that you do, and doing a whole lot of things that our egos might be uncomfortable with. So there's multiple layers to that. In order for me to be able to take interpersonal risks, I need to be doing my work. And I think Jerry gave us some really good ideas of what that looks like. And at the same time, the system needs to receive that, instead of the system making me feel ashamed for having done that, or alienating me, or upping the anxiety. And so we can work with kind of rage and shame and fear and different ways to understand what happens to us when an environment is not psychologically safe. But I think a peaceful, and so that is, we can feel at peace in some way because there is safety in the environment, as opposed to a peaceful organization being a place where we all agree and we all sing from the same hymn sheet. Because I think there's entropy in that kind of system. And that's also something you mentioned early on, Jerry. So those are some of my thoughts. I'm sure Frederick and Jerry might have some thoughts that connect to that too.
I'd like to chip in here. I very much agree with Lucille on almost everything you were saying, because when you're working with a team and everybody agrees, you feel something's off. When I was in Ukraine, I was heading a team of 50 people, and I always liked it when there was some kind of discussion, when there was disagreement. The question is only, where does this disagreement come from? Does it come from ego? Is it like, I want to make my point and everybody has to agree? Or is it like, well, let's just try to figure out together, like, what is the best way forward? What is the most efficient way to deal with that? Like, how can we get closer to the truth? I very much appreciate when people are very open, when they're vocal. Of course, sometimes you have to manage that, right? Some people can be too open, too vocal. Others are going to self-censor themselves. But I think there's also the moment that once a discussion has been had and a decision has been taken, then you also need to have the loyalty that people adhere to the decision that has been taken. And this is where, for some people, it can be very difficult to understand, like, when can I voice myself and when not. Some people think that if they can voice their opinion, they should always do it. So at some points, it can be very productive. At some moments, it can be counterproductive. Especially, again, if you're working in a bureaucracy. I have had many occasions where I completely disagreed with the official policy line. And then it's important to have an environment where people can actually voice that dissatisfaction, the disagreement with the policy. But then you still have to present the official policy line. So in my job, sometimes I have to defend things publicly that I personally do not agree with. But that is part of the job. And I think that this is also an important element in many of the group settings, actually.
Yeah, that's really interesting, Frederick. And linked to that, psychologically safe to take interpersonal risks is not just for the more assertive people in the team, right? So psychological safety would not be those people that always do that, but that it's psychologically safe for people that may be a lot more reticent and that take longer to warm up and to speak, that there's spaciousness and a cadence and an invitation for them to have that space too. It's not psychologically safe for some, and by definition, then psychologically unsafe for others who have maybe more introverted personalities.
I like the combination of safety and peace. I think we're closing in some minutes. And I have a question for you, which is impossible to answer, I guess. And the question could be something like this: is there something spiritually, energetically, intrinsic within the Enneagram that by living in inner peace, that we could transmute something to the really global energy level? I know it's spooky, but that's the question.
I'd offer a thought. It's just a thought. I mean, if we just play with the ideas of quantum physics and entanglement, I think any community, I'd not just speak for the Enneagram community, but any community that comes together with the intention to in some way contribute at a certain frequency, by the very definition of coming together, has an impact on the whole system. And I do think that over the years, the groups that have gathered with the Enneagram symbol as part of the gathering organizing force, that it's imbued the Enneagram symbol with some of that entangled energy. And therefore, working with the Enneagram, that's always had the intention to support the development of consciousness in the world, that working with the Enneagram, the symbol itself, transmits some of that. Yeah.
I'm thinking, I don't know why I'm thinking of this Hegel, thesis, antithesis, synthesis. And so, there was the World War I, and then we had the League of Nations. Okay, let's all get together. And then, well, the hell with that. Let's have nationalism. Then we have World War II. And then we said, well, this isn't working. Let's try the United Nations. So we're back to, we're all in this together. And then, well, that isn't working. Let's go back to nationalism again. And so you've got thesis, antithesis. Where's that synthesis? And Dan Siegel has, he's got a new book out on the Enneagram, but he talks about the we. So there's me and there's also we. And so the synthesis would be, yes, I can honor my own individuality and my purchase on the truth. I see things from my Enneagram perspective or from my individual perspective. And if I contribute that to the group, then we get the whole picture. We get the 360-degree view of things. But there's also a we. So it's not, I'm not in this on my own, but we're in this together. We're not in each one has our own little lifeboat, but we're all in the same boat. So if it's somehow being able to hold on to both and creating that safe space, I really like that, where we can lower our defenses. The ego can relax a little bit. And I can be who I am, and I can let you be who you are, because I'll learn something from you. You'll learn something from me. And so it is that we, whatever we need to do to get to that space. Yeah. Anyway, easier said than done.
Mm. I'd like to give a personal example, a little bit following on what Lucille was maybe talking about, the energetic and maybe the quantum stuff around all of this. I would say that it's thanks to the Enneagram that I have been able to find inner peace and inner calmness during moments of crisis. I was managing a team of 50 people in Ukraine. We were managing over 1 billion euros a year. So you really have to take very important decisions in a very chaotic environment. And it's thanks to the Enneagram that I was able to be at peace with myself and take decisions in a calm manner. Now, people could sense this calmness. It radiated. Many other people could actually get out of their own reactive mode sometimes just by talking to me, and it could calm them down. I've had many colleagues come to me and say, like, Frederick, how can you stay calm in this kind of situations? And it has inspired other people to also study the Enneagram. I'll go back to, I have been on leave for 21 months. Today is my last day. Tomorrow, I officially start a new job again. And there's already quite a number of colleagues who actually want to learn the Enneagram because they have seen the impact that it can have. So I do believe this is the energetic aspect, this energy of the Enneagram that just flows through people that use it. And it's contagious.
I'm getting goosebumps. Thank you so much, Jerry, Lucille, and Frederick, for sharing this, and even going along with the spooky question at the end. And yes, I honestly believe that we are transpiring energy that will influence other people and eventually the world. Mm. Thank you so much for contributing, and we are closing this conversation. And I'm inviting my board colleague, Marga, to platform with me. Where are you, Marga? So I'm also thanking Lucille for helping out the first 3 hours, and Patrick as well. He's looking for Marga. There you are, Marga. Nice to see you.
Hello, nice to see you too.
¿Cómo estás? Muy bien.
Okay, I think someone, yeah, muy bien, gracias.
So,
I'm sharing the screen.
I think it's Camilla who's sharing the screen. They normally will be up. So maybe wait a little bit, Camilla, share your screen. I just want to tell you it's been a fantastic 3 hours where we have shared different views on the Enneagram and peace, 4Ps. And we've been between 100 and 150 logged on every time. And as you mentioned yourself, the Asians are logging off to go to sleep, and the Europeans and the Americans and the South Americans are logging on. So Matthias is taking charge of the technical part now, and Patrick and I are resigning, and it's you're the one to take the floor now.
Thank you very much, Tom, and congratulations to you, Patrick, and of course, Lucille, for the amazing job you've done for the first 3 hours. You are taking us in this trip. It's like you driving a plane, and this plane is coming to now to Central Europe. We visited a little bit of Europe with Finland already. So now we're going to dive on this part of the world in this amazing Enneagram trip that we're taking today. We all can get the energy we already have in the room. So we will continue. And just to let the people who are joining us now to let them know a little bit about the agenda. Right now, my colleague Matthias, he'll be with me for these 3 hours. He is setting up a translation channel. We're having simultaneous translation into Spanish from now. So you will be able to choose the translation channel in your menu to follow the event in Spanish, okay? And